I greet you, ladies and gentlemen. I trust all is well with you, even as I appear before you to give a short lecture on research methodology. This research methodology course that we are doing together is arranged into three compartments or three categories, if I may put it that way. The first part has to do with the research methodologies themselves and the purpose of research. The second part has to do with the structure of your research report or your dissertation, which has got 5 chapters. Chapter 1 being the introductory chapter, chapter 2 being literature review, chapter 3 being research methodology, and chapter 4 being the chapter zeroing in on the analysis, presentation, and discussion of results, and chapter 5 being the chapter which concludes the study by presenting key research findings, research conclusions, and policy recommendations. And then you have got your references and the appendices, if any. So that's the second part. And then the third part has to do with data analysis. So I will attempt by all means to cover all of those three strands or three compartments or categories of research methodology. The purpose of today's delivery or presentation is to just give a brief overview of research paradigms. I must point out that as social science researchers in finance, in the field of finance and economics, we tend to zero in on the positivist school of thought, on the positivist research paradigm. But it doesn't do us any harm for us to cover holistically, as it were, even other research paradigms, so that we've got an awareness of where this positivist research paradigm actually comes from. So the reason why different research paradigms actually arise has to do with the question which arises when we try to understand reality. The question which immediately arises when we try to understand reality can be summarized in 3 critical words or 3 important words, which are ontology, epistemology, and methodology. Methodology proper is exactly what I'm covering. Aspects to which impinge on ontology and epistemology, I leave that to people in humanities and social sciences proper. But it bears noting that when we are looking at ontology, it's a branch of metaphysics which deals with the nature of a being. Ontological arguments, they interrogate the nature of being. The reason why researchers are always gathering information on the same phenomenon is because there is this overarching need in all of us to understand the reality. Reality around us, it consists of many beings. It consists of so many beings. It consists of processes. It consists of circumstances and situations. So there is this aspect of ontology, which, just to summarize, is a branch of metaphysics dealing with the nature of being. Under this school of thought, there is an attempt on the part of the researcher, on the part of the thinker or philosopher, to demonstrate relations or linkages between concepts and categories in a subject area or domain. So we can think in terms of an ontological database, which gets populated or formulated as people are deliberating on a certain subject and creating a strand or a branch of knowledge in that subject area. So what do we mean by a research paradigm? A research paradigm is a model of gathering information because the paradigm is a model of something. It is a model of something. And as we all know, models, they tend to simplify reality. They simplify reality so that we can understand it. So there are various definitions of research paradigms, but the ones that I like the most are the ones that were presented by two scholars, one in 1970 and the other one in 1990. According to Kuhn, a research paradigm is a set of common beliefs and arguments or agreements shared between scientists about how problems should be understood and addressed. So that's the perspective of Kuhn in 1970. According to Cooper, 1990, research paradigms can be characterized by the way scientists respond to the three basic questions. That is the ontological question, the nature of being; epistemological question, which is the nature of our knowledge about being or beings or about processes; and methodological questions, which have to do with how we approach reality and try to interact or grapple with reality, as it were. So when we look at ontology once more, according to Chalmers in 2002, ontology has to do with the study of beings or their being. In our context, it has to do with the question, what is reality? What is reality? What do we perceive as reality? And then when we look at epistemology, it has to do with knowledge itself. Because the reason why we ask ourselves ontological questions is so that we understand reality. But our understanding of reality is mediated by knowledge. And then ancillary to what I've just mentioned is logic, which is the study of valid reasoning. Otherwise, conclusions are invalid if the reasoning itself is not valid. And then there are ethics. When we are gathering knowledge, we have to be aware, especially in the social sciences, that we are gathering knowledge which impinges on human interaction or human welfare. We can't experiment with human beings. We have to know how to act in our desire to harness knowledge. And then there is the aspect of phenomenology, which is the study of our experience, including our experience of reality itself when we are deploying our methodologies in order to understand reality. So the contemporary debate on research paradigms zeroes in on 5 critical research paradigms, which are positivism, post-positivism, critical theory or ideology, constructivism, and pragmatism. The first one is positivism. The second one is post-positivism. And then there is critical theory or ideology. And then there is constructivism and pragmatism. So these are the main schools of thought, as it were, which mediate our grappling with the reality in order to understand reality. Some other social science paradigms, because the social science paradigms are so many. There is macro theory and micro theory. There is the conflict paradigm. There is the role theory. There is functionalism. There is naturalism. there is Marxism, there is neo-Marxism, there is the feminist paradigm, there is ethno-methodology, there is structuralism, there is post-foundationalism, there is post-structuralism, there is post-colonialism, there is existentialism, there is postmodernism, and there is new ageism. So these are schools of thought that we need to reflect on. In the subsequent lecture, I will dwell more on positivism because that's what we informs our philosophies of research or our philosophy, our worldview when we're investigating phenomena in business, in finance, and in economics. Thank you so much for listening in to this short lecture.